So hello guys, and welcome to another discussion video. And a few days ago, a controversial rumor came out that Nintendo and Illumination are closing in on a deal to make a Zelda movie. And this is pretty interesting. And I can kind of understand the controversy behind it, because there are many ways that this could or could not work. And I definitely see why a lot of people are kind of veering in the direction of this not working out, because Illumination has made a lot of movies that have a very different style from Zelda. I mean, also somewhat of a demographic too, but I feel like Zelda has a pretty broad demographic, and I'll discuss that in a little bit. But just looking at the style of Zelda and everything, I feel like it would be much more fitting if a studio like DreamWorks would work on it, or even something like Sony Pictures Animation. I mean, Sony Pictures Animation, that's probably not likely due to the fact that Nintendo has already been working with Universal, so it's probably going to be DreamWorks as the best option to make this movie, and DreamWorks could definitely pull off a Zelda movie, because they recently did Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, and that was absolutely amazing. And I feel like a Zelda movie could actually follow a somewhat similar style to that. Obviously not the same style, but it could definitely take some influence from that movie. And due to like a lot of the action scenes, there's actually a decent amount of action scenes and fun moments, and it was a pretty fun movie to watch. Like, the animation was absolutely amazing and very stylized in Puss in Boots. And I feel like they could actually go for a style like that in a Zelda movie. But with Illumination, I could definitely see why that couldn't work out, or the fact that people are skeptical about it. Because Illumination, for most movies aside from the Mario movie, and also that new movie, Migration, that's releasing later this year, and I'll also discuss that movie in a little bit, but most of Illumination's movies have used that general 3D CGI style, that kind of generic style. Like, I mean, they don't look bad. Like, I kind of liked how the Despicable Me movies looked, like the first one and everything. I thought the Despicable Me movies, maybe aside from 3, were actually decently good. And the style was pretty good, but most of their movies have kind of had a somewhat generic style. I feel like the best way to describe it is like a lot of the movies in the 2000s and early 2010s have had like a general style. Like, you could see DreamWorks had like a general style, Pixar had a general style, Illumination also has that style, but I feel like nowadays a lot of studios are kind of moving away from their base generic style. Like, you could see it with Sony Pictures Animation, even Pixar and DreamWorks. They're expanding the scope of like character designs and different styles that they do, and I feel like with Illumination, they've kind of been stuck on like a rigid style. But with the Mario movie, I feel like that's where it gives me a little more hope for Illumination in terms of a Zelda movie and everything. And also their movie coming out later this year, Migration. And with the Mario movie and everything, people were pretty skeptical at first with Illumination making it. But with this Zelda movie and everything, even though the Mario movie has had mostly universal praise except for the critic scores, the Mario movie, I feel like it fit more in line with Illumination's style, and like, I feel like it is more within the target audience for like Illumination and everything. But something that the Mario movie did that was kind of new for Illumination was actually kind of have a unique style. Like, I would say like 70 to 80% of the characters in the movie didn't follow the Illumination style. They mostly followed the Mario style. There were like a couple characters that kind of looked Illumination-esque, but most of the characters, including the ones in Brooklyn, had like the Mario style. Like obviously kind of adapted to the movie, like its own kind of unique aesthetic for the movie, but it was kind of really adapted from the Mario art style. You could really see the influence that the Mario games had on this movie in terms of art direction. And their upcoming movie, Migration, also kind of has a unique style from the footage that we've seen so far. It's almost going in that style, that, like Puss in Boots, Spider-Verse, the bad guys, have kind of gone into that kind of 2D, um, that kind of 2D inspired style where you kind of see elements of 2D animation kind of mixed in to the 3D CGI. And I kind of like that Illumination has been kind of dabbling into that a little bit. I think it's pretty interesting. I haven't seen the trailer in a while, but from what I remember, it was kind of doing that, I think. But I think Illumination is definitely capable of kind of pushing into that style, because a lot of studios have been doing that recently, and I really feel like it's kind of perfecting 3D animation in general. Like, rather than going in a hyper-realistic direction, I really like the stylized direction for a lot of animated movies. So I really hope that the Zelda movie kind of goes into that direction. And another concern that has been kind of going around with this rumor is the demographic. I know I kind of mentioned it before, like with Mario and everything kind of being in line with Illumination's demographic. But yeah, with Mario, I feel like that kind of has a more universal appeal to it. I mean, I guess Zelda also kind of has that appeal, but it's kind of in a different way. I mean, Mario is kind of easier to appeal to kids. And it's much easier to kind of fall in line with that Illumination marketing and everything. But with Zelda, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's meant for older audiences, because the Zelda series has kind of varied. Like, it's similar to Mario in the fact that it is kind of meant for everyone, but I feel like certain games in the Zelda series can kind of appeal to certain audiences, even though the series overall appeals to a lot of different audiences, and also the general Zelda fan base and Nintendo fan base. But certain games like Ocarina of Time, and then I guess Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom kind of have a more general appeal towards a lot of people. And then things like Wind Waker, and then the Link's Awakening remake, and Triforce Heroes, A Link Between Worlds. I could see the slight appeal towards kids for those, especially with the style. I could definitely see that they were trying to appeal to everyone, including kids, for those. Even though I feel like really any modern Zelda game could really appeal to anyone, including kids. I feel like those games, especially those more stylized Zelda games, can kind of appeal more. And then games like Twilight Princess, Majora's Mask, um, games like those kind of appeal to older audiences. I mean, there's still a general audience there, but um, Twilight Princess was rated T, and I feel like that was definitely more geared towards, like, teens and young adults for that one. You could definitely see with that style. So, Zelda overall has a very wide appeal, and it kind of varies between different games. So at first glance, it may seem like Zelda in general really isn't kind of falling in line with Illumination's style, and it really doesn't that much, even with the more kid-friendly art styles in the Zelda series. But like I said, Illumination is definitely capable of doing a movie in a different style, looking at Migration in the Mario movie. So it would be pretty interesting to see them kind of go in the direction of those more stylized 2D animate or 3D animated movies with a 2D inspired art direction like Spider-Verse and Puss in Boots. So I think that would be nice to see overall. And recently, Illumination has actually kind of created a new like a new brand that kind of have they didn't really reveal much about it yet, but they're creating a new brand under Illumination called Moonlight, which is meant for kind of older audiences and adults and different things. I'm not sure if it will entirely be for adults or if it will also include things that are kind of meant for the demographic that kind of includes like Puss in Boots and Spider-Verse, where it still has an appeal for kids, but it's meant for a slightly older audience than things like most of Illumination's movies. So it would be interesting to see if this was kind of branded under the Moonlight thing. If they were going in the direction of like Twilight Princess, if they were doing an adaptation of that movie, or Ocarina of Time with a slightly darker appeal to it, I feel like that would kind of make sense to have that under the Moonlight branding. But if they were to do something in a more general style, in terms of like just general Ocarina of Time, like without any like changes to the overall story, or something like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, I feel like that could possibly be under the base Illumination kind of lineup, as long as Illumination kind of shifts their overall scope of the movies that they've been making. They kind of shift their appeal slightly. I mean, they'll obviously still have the movies that appeal to kids, like Despicable Me, Secret Life of Pets, Sing, things like that, but they could also do like the more stylized and movies that kind of have a more artistic and more unique style to them, like I guess like the Mario movies kind of in between that, but Migration could possibly be one of them. And maybe they'll do more movies like that, and they'll have the Zelda movie kind of be one of those movies. Because DreamWorks does a lot of different movies. Like, I mean, that's kind of another Universal animation studio, and they have a lot of different styles under their belt in terms of animation. They have like the style that's with the bad guys and Puss in Boots, and then they have like another style for Trolls, and then there's also like some other movies as well. So DreamWorks has like a bunch of different styles that they work with. So I think it's definitely possible that Illumination could have like a slightly different style with some of their more stylized movies. So I hope they continue to do more stylized movies and kind of have the Zelda movie, if that ends up happening, kind of along those lines. But yeah, even though it does sound very unlikely and not very feasible for it to happen, it seems like it won't really work out. I think Illumination could actually pull off a Zelda movie if they have a much different approach to it. And looking at the Mario movie had a much different approach from most of their movies. So I am somewhat faithful, though I am still a little concerned if they end up making it, since Zelda is a much different IP than the other IPs and different things that Illumination has been working with. I know Mario was somewhat different, but with Zelda, I feel like it's a completely different story. So we'll just have to see. It might actually work out. So anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more, and make sure to check out my Discord server if you want to. Goodbye.